Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, during this video we're going to do some AP math, but it's going to take a few days to do it. At least it's going to take me a few days to do it and then post this video. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go ahead and freeze dry all this meat you see here. We have roughly 15 pounds of beef stew meat, right? Cubed meat. Roughly 15 pounds. Here we have 4.87. It cost me $36.48. This one is, let's see, 5.05 pounds, $37.82. And this one is 4.73. Sorry, 4 pounds 73. And it cost me $35.43. So what I'm going to do is once I have all of this freeze dried, I'm going to compare it to what it costs to buy freeze dried beef from a third party. All right. Also, since I'm going to spend all day today slow cooking this meat, I'm going to slow cook it and spice it and everything so that it can be tasty. And then I'm probably going to have it for a full day in the refrigerator so it can get nice and cool and then pre-freeze it. I'm going to go ahead and do this batch of chicken breast. Now, you know the chicken breast that you buy at Costco, that's from the rotisserie chickens. I really like the taste and the flavor of those rotisserie chickens. So I figured I'd go ahead and freeze dry some of this chicken and see how much it costs. Now this is a lot pricier than if you went and bought chicken breast by yourself and then cooked it and then freeze dried it, if you have a freeze dryer. However, even with the elevated price, because these really went up in price a lot, it's like $4.50 or so per pound this comes out to. Even at that elevated price, I want to see how it compares to buying something from a third party, you know, like Mountain House or Thrive or whoever sells meat products that are freeze dried. So at the end of all of this, I'm going to go ahead and get on the calculator and see exactly what our savings are, if any, after freeze drying, and how many batches it may take for us to recoup our investment into purchasing a freeze dryer, and even to include the electricity that you use when you're freeze drying. So this is all the meat inside of that pressure canner. Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm just using this pressure canner to slow cook the meat. I'm not pressure canning the meat or pressure cooking the meat, okay? I'm just using it because it's a bigger pot and it's easier to cook all this meat in there at one time. And I'm just going to go ahead and add probably about 1.5 tablespoons of salt to this. I'm going to add some adobo, of course. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to add some of this Badia seasoning complete, or complete seasoning, sazon completo. And like I said before, this is something that Billy and Dee gifted me. And man, I'll tell you what, I think it adds a nice little flavor to it. But I like using it with my adobo and not just that by itself. And this may look like I'm putting a lot, but ladies and gentlemen, remember, there's about 15 pounds of meat in there. I'm going to add some onion powder, and these are just all basic seasonings. And I'm going to add a little bit of garlic powder. And then I'm going to go ahead and slow cook this for the entirety of the day. Once I slow cook it, what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. I'll tell you right now what I'm going to do. Once I slow cook it and it comes to room temperature, I'm going to put it in the fridge, in the refrigerator. I'm going to leave it there overnight. That is going to make it very easy for me to take out the excess fat. That way a lot of fat won't go back into the meat before it goes into the freeze dryer. So ladies and gentlemen, this is how much 3 of those packs made. 3 of the packs of the chicken breast from Costco's. It filled up each of the trays, plus I still have that much left, about 1/3 of a pack left. I thought that it would be like at least 1 pack per tray that I would be able to fit in there, but as you can see, there is actually a lot of meat packed into those vacuum packed bags. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the freeze dryer. I changed my mind. I was going to let them freeze overnight, but my freeze dryer is empty right now. I'm just going to go ahead and turn it on non-frozen and let it go to work. And it should take about a day and a couple of hours for it to go from 0 to done. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, after 39 hours and about 25 minutes, the process is complete. I did select more dry time after the cycle was done, so it did dry for an additional 2 hours. Now, before I take the chicken out and start packaging it, I'm going to go ahead and set the trays to warm. Just enough so that the chicken is not too cold to the touch when I take it out, in hopes that the cold chicken does not attract any moisture from the air before I package it. So in other terms, I just want to bring the chicken up to about room temperature. Here is our end product, and you can probably tell just by looking at it that the chicken is very dry. And let me tell you what, it weighs next to nothing compared to when I placed it in the freeze dryer. Now I'm going to weigh it dry and save those numbers till the end of the video to serve as a comparison of the per ounce cost. We ended up with a total of 1 pound 11.5 ounces, and if you remember, I used about 2 3/4 42-ounce packets of chicken when we started this. So that totals to about 115 ounces of chicken that we started with roughly about 82 ounces of water being removed during the freeze drying process. As you can see here, I'm using my impulse sealer, and to tell you the truth, I really like this machine. It's kind of heavy, and I thought that it's kind of like a waste of space, but it does a great job. And here, as you can see as well, it took about 5 bags for me to be able to package all of the chicken that we freeze dried. This is the beef that I had in the freezer while the chicken was in the freeze dryer. As you can see, there's a little bit of ice on top of it. I usually wrap it, not usually, but I always wrap it with like plexi wrap. And this one right here that you see with all the frost on top, that's the one that was on top of the other two. For some reason, the one that's on top always ends up with that frost on it. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put it in here into the freeze dryer, and we're gonna go ahead and start the process. The freeze drying process will definitely get rid of all that frost on top, and then once it comes out of there, we'll go ahead and do the same thing with it that we did with the chicken. We have our bowl on our scale, and we are tiered at 0. Let me go ahead and fill this up and see what our weight is. And that is all of it, ladies and gentlemen, except for a couple small pieces that we had to do a little quality control. But we ended up with 3 pounds, 5.6 ounces. Now, if you remember, when we started out just with the raw meat, it was just shy of 15 pounds. So you're looking at pretty close to an 80% reduction. I would say somewhere around 77, 78% reduction in weight as far as the water that was extracted. So now I'm going to go ahead and package this up, and then we're going to go ahead and give this a taste test after we rehydrate it. Alright, so here we have our chicken, ladies and gentlemen, and here we have our beef. Now that's actually a lot of beef, but I'm going to be eating this for my dinner tonight. I've already got some water boiled. I didn't heat up any broth or anything like that because these were already pretty well flavored. So we're going to see what they're like once they rehydrate. First, now I don't want to drown the beef because remember, I kind of like left the gravy in there. So I don't want to thin it out too much. So I think that should be just about enough. And here's our chicken. Let's go ahead and stir it around a little bit. Let's see our beef. All right. I'm just going to let it sit there. I'm going to cover it with a styrofoam plate or a paper plate so that some of the steam will stay in there. But I'm going to let it sit for about 6 or 7 minutes, and we'll be back. And they are ready, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the chicken. I went ahead and drained the excess juice or excess water off of it. I left the excess water in the beef because I'm hoping that that gravy will stir up that I left in there. And let's take a look at the chicken first. Let's see what... It's nice and tender. I mean, it rehydrated so well. You know, I'm very happy with it. And we're going to go ahead and give the chicken a try first before we go with the beef. But let me show you how much beef that last batch made. There is a 1/2 gallon mason jar along with 3 of the Harvest Right freezer Mylar bags. And those Mylar bags are stuffed. I put as much in there as I could. Each of those Mylar bags have 2 100cc oxygen absorbers. And as you can see here, this 1/2 gallon jar has 4. I figured that I would be better safe than sorry and spend an extra 25 cents on oxygen absorber considering the investment that I have in the actual meat that I purchased and all of the time that I've got into doing this. So let's give this chicken a try, and then the beef, and then we'll go ahead and do a little bit of AP math to see how long it'll take for this freeze dryer to pay for itself. Oh, come on now. It doesn't want to give up, ladies and gentlemen, not without a fight. There we go. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I was thinking that when I dumped the excess water that it had in it, I was thinking that it was going to steal like some of the flavor away from it, but it didn't. This tastes just like it did before I freeze dried it. I mean, it really does. It's good. And I'm glad that I got the chicken breast from Costco, from the rotisserie leftovers, because I really like the way that tastes. So let's go ahead and take a look at our beef, see how our beef is looking. And our beef looks like it hydrated pretty well also. Yes, it did. Look at that. It's not like crumbling. Here's the inside. Looks nice and hydrated. Now, one thing that I did with the beef is that when I took it out of the fridge, I went ahead and took as much fat off the top as I could. So I put on some rubber gloves. I took out as much fat as I could from the top. And then I went ahead and put all of the beef on a platter, like a bowl, and then I rinsed it off, and then I threw it back into the gravy. That way I could get as much fat off of it as I could, and it turned out pretty good. And look at that nice piece of beef. Nice. Let's see what it tastes like. And I'll tell you what, that is delish. Now let's take a look at this gravy here. The gravy looks a little soupy, right? Probably have to heat it up for it to thicken up a little, but let's give it a taste and see how much of the flavor it's retained. Man, ladies and gentlemen, I think I like the gravy better than I like the beef. Tastes outstanding. That mixture of seasonings that you see me put in there worked out perfect. This is something, you don't have to add anything to this at all. All right, let me stop jabbering. Let's go ahead and do some AP math and see if this is all worth it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to class. So, freeze drying my chicken cost me $35.72 to get the chicken, plus I added in $10 for the energy, the oil, the spices, the Mylar bags, and the oxygen absorbers that I used in order to process the chicken from start to finish. The oil is not oil that I used to cook the chicken. It's just the little bit of oil that you consume every time that you run a cycle on the freeze dryer, because it is recommended that you change out the oil for new oil every 25 or so cycles. All of that came out to $45.72 for a total of 27.6 ounces. So I went ahead and divided the $45.72 by 27.6. I came out with $1.66 an ounce to process my own freeze-dried chicken. Now let's take a look at Mountain House, which is, in my opinion, the most popular freeze-dried meat company out there. The latest numbers that I got from Mountain House going to their site was $60 for a 17-ounce can of chicken. It was actually $59.99, but 60 is good enough. So when you divide 60 by 17, it comes out to $3.53 an ounce for your freeze-dried chicken, all done. You don't have to go through the effort or make the investment in the freeze dryer, but you will pay a little more than twice as much as what it would take for you to do it yourselves. Now my beef cubes came out a little more expensive, obviously, because it's beef, but we were able to pack more into each tray. I paid $109.73 for the beef, plus $10 in energy, oil, spices, Mylar bags, and oxygen absorbers, for a total of $119.73. My batch came out to 53.6 ounces. And when divided into $119.73, it came out to $2.23 per ounce doing it myself. For the Mountain House beef cubes, pretty much the same story as the chicken. The Mountain House beef cubes is $83 for a 17-ounce can, which comes out to $4.88 per ounce, which is a little over twice as much as what it costs for me to do it myself. Now let's take a look and see at how many cycles I would have to run my freeze dryer for in order to recoup my investment with both only freeze drying chicken and or just freeze drying beef. Since we know that my batch of chicken on average comes out to 27 ounces per batch, and we know that Mountain House comes out to $3.53 per ounce, and mine comes out to $1.66 an ounce, it means that me purchasing Mountain House would cost me on average $1.87 more per ounce. When I multiply what I'm saving per ounce times 27, it comes out to $50.49, which means that me freeze drying my own chicken, taking the time to do it myself, saves me $50.49 for every 27 ounce batch. Now if I take my investment into the freeze dryer of $2,295 and I divide it by the savings of $50.49, it equals to 46, which means that once I complete 46 batches of chicken at the same rate of 27 ounces per batch, I will have recouped my investment. Now the beef is a different story, and I'm really happy with these numbers because beef is mainly what I want to freeze dry. So knowing that my average batch of beef comes out to about 53 ounces, and knowing that I save $2.65 per ounce compared to buying my beef cubes from Mountain House, if I multiply that 53 ounces times 265, it equals to $140.45, meaning that for every batch of beef that I freeze dry myself, I am saving $140.45 compared to if I purchased it from Mountain House. Now if I take that $140.45 and divide it into my investment of $22.95, I only have to do 16 batches of beef cubes, just like the one you saw me do here on this video, in order to recoup my investment. So ladies and gentlemen, guess what I'm going to be doing for the next 13 or 14 batches? That's right, beef cubes. In my opinion, it's a great investment to get the freeze dryer if you are a meat eater, because those are the things that I think cost the most when purchased from third party in the freeze dried form. Alright ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.